Hey there everybody, it's Mark Crowley back with another How to Draw video. Today I'm going to be doing a video on how to draw a Gundam type mecha character. And I had put a video out earlier this week asking, should I make it difficult, should I make it easy? And it was kind of evenly split, but I think maybe more people wanted me to start with the beginner's lesson. So that's what we're going to do, and I'm going to go ahead and jump in and start drawing the upper torso of this character. And I'm going to begin with just loose lines because I'm not 100% sure, where everything's supposed to be at this stage, but this is kind of going to be like the chest area of the character. One thing I noticed in studying these Gundam characters is the heads of these characters are really quite small in proportion to the rest of the body. Of course, I don't know. I mean, what is the proportion? It's a robot. What is the proportion? I don't know. It could be anything. Whatever you decide it's going to be, that is the proportion. So what I'm going to do now is move on to drawing these largely decorative shoulder pads. Reminds me of the 1980s, my youth, when people had ridiculous shoulder pads. Maybe that's when these characters were first designed. Who knows? Maybe someone can educate me on that. But I'm giving this character quite exaggerated, big, long, triangular shoulder pad type things. I suppose they could be for defensive purposes, right? They're shielding the upper body, maybe. I don't know. So now I'm going to move on to drawing the waist of the character. And like I said, I wanted to make this one a little simpler than, the sometimes incredibly detailed illustrations that you see. And that meant, in my case, taking certain areas of it and sort of flattening them out a little instead of having them have so many different compartments and so forth jutting out. So I came up with a fairly simple way of rendering this area at the waist. But if you look at the actual toys and so forth, you will find that they have considerably more variation in this area. But to keep this a little more simple for the beginner, I've just tried to kind of flatten that area out. Now we're coming down to doing the legs, and this is an important part because the stance, I think, of the character is very important. And I've got the upper area, the thighs, and I was kind of surprised as I studied these characters that the thigh area is not so large as you might expect. It almost seems to sort of widen out and get bigger as it reaches down towards the feet. So this is, I suppose, the knee, technically speaking. And I'm coming down here. And down here, I'm not going to do this too heavily, but I sort of am imagining this in 3 dimensions. Sometimes a lot of beginning art books will show you, simplify things by drawing them in terms of, columns and cubes, right? 3-dimensional things. And when I was a kid, I was always a little frustrated by those. Let me know what you think about that. That a lot of times I found simply drawing the columns and the 3-dimensional cubes was so difficult that I was in trouble at the beginning of the process. So I don't do that too much in my videos, but you can see how I've done the sort of lower area here as if this was trying to see it in 3 dimensions, which there's no denying is a useful thing, especially for a character like this, that if you can try it in your mind to see that form in 3 dimensions, that's going to help you. Now I'm getting down to the feet, and I had kind of started to talk about how I was surprised that the thigh was kind of small, and it seemed to get much bigger as you reach down towards the feet. And it's maybe just a stylistic thing. I think it makes the character look very sturdy and strong, and like you could never knock them down, I suppose, because the feet are large and seem to be set very solidly upon the ground. But again, the stance is very important here. Notice how this one is coming down, this whole leg is coming down fairly straight, and then this one's coming out at more of an angle. Of course, the whole character is tilted away from us a little bit, like a 3/4 view, which you see in my videos again and again. I think, the 3/4 view is artistically, aesthetically very pleasing in a way that the flat, sort of police lineup kind of dead-on view. I'm not saying that is never used or you should always avoid it. There's certainly good times to use that. But for some reason I like in my lessons to to teach you the three-dimensional view. If you want me to do more flat-on, as I say, police lineup type videos, just let me know. So here's the arm area. As I studied these characters, I found that the arms were not super long. They tend to stop around mid-thigh. And I'm coming over here to do this other arm. And because of the way that the body is tilted away, this arm may even be partially concealed, or at least touching up near to the part of the body where there might be a gap right here. I mean, that kind of stuff is very important, the sort of negative space that you have here versus the smaller or almost absent negative space that you have on this side. And there you go. We've got sort of the basics of the character's body. And, you know, I hope that this alone does not prove too tricky for the beginner. There's in a way, it's almost impossible to do a super easy video about a Gundam character, because there's just a certain amount of complexity to the design of the mecha character. I think if you were to simplify it too much, you would not be doing justice to the character. Now I'm adding a shield here, and again I'm sort of just getting a simple basic form in here. All of this stuff, once I get the basics in place, I will be adding more detail later, sort of building the detail on top, and that's sort of the classic way of doing it. Although I know a lot of kids, myself included, when I was younger, I would often like to just start right in with the details and not mess around with all this guideline stuff. There's something kind of boring about starting with guidelines. And I don't blame you. I mean, if you found a technique that allows you to get good results without doing any guidelines at all, you know, go for it. I've always been very much averse to this idea of saying there is one way. Now I'm going to do the art teacher. There is one proper way to draw. And if you don't all learn to draw exactly the way I draw, then you're not drawing properly. I think we all have had negative experiences sometimes with certain art teachers who like to have that very authoritarian approach. I definitely am not like that, and so you can view anything in my videos as like, you know, this works for me, I hope it works for you. If you have another method that works better, go ahead and do that. So we've got it all in place here. This is, of course, some kind of big futuristic rifle type thing. And we're ready to move on to more of the detailed stuff. I think to get the most out of this area of it, though, we should zoom in so you can see more of the details as I work on it. So give me a second here. I'm going to reframe this and maybe begin work on the head and the shoulder area here. Alright, so I see we're kind of at the 8-minute mark here, and that means to me that I need to sort of move things along. I don't want this video to go on super long. So I'm going to do some of what I would call the core important details, and then I am going to have to do some of the time-lapse at the end just to do the final details, but hopefully you'll agree that we're covering the main most important things. Now, I would in fact encourage you to be creative when it comes to doing the details of a robot like this. Make it your own, right? I mean, you don't want to be following line by line everything that I do, but you probably do want just a little more of an idea of how to make these things look three-dimensional. This, for example, in the position that he's posed in, you might want to indicate the edge of this shoulder pad type thing so as to make it seem a little more solid. Again, I feel like I'm kind of oversimplifying. If you look at the actual toys, they you know, have many more details and tend to have rather more complicated shapes than what you see here. The real challenge is to do this sort of mirror imaging in your mind, right? Anything that you put over here, you kind of want it to flip over and match on the other side. And if I know my viewers, I think many of them find it hard to. They're always saying things like, "Well, I can draw the first thing, but when I try to draw the second thing, it doesn't match," you know. And there's no simple secret way to do that apart from pulling out a ruler and measuring. You know, I don't think there's and just practice. That's really the key. You know, it was funny when I did my last video, I made a joke, and I said, you know, tell me what kind of funny accents, what kind of funny voices you want me to do, eh? And then everybody was like, I don't know if they were taking me seriously, but there were so many requests for accents like that. They were saying, do an Irish accent. But it's like, I've got Irish viewers out there. If I do a really fake Irish accent, they're going to hate me. They're going to unsubscribe. They're going to be like, look, Crilly, we don't talk like Father O'Malley. It's not like that. I really am. They're like, oh, that was terrible. Don't ever do that again. What was the other one? They wanted me to do Schwarzenegger. Do the old Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, let me tell you, the black Prismacolor is the best for indicating. Anyway. Oh, boy. You see, you shouldn't have encouraged me, people. I'm going ahead and doing the chest area, and again, I would not even begin to claim that this is authentic for the Gundam approach to design. I'm actually, greatly simplifying things. I find that most of the characters have very complicated three-dimensional subsections to this area that can make it very challenging. Of course, maybe the real key to drawing Gundam is to get a Gundam figure, put it in front of you, and draw from life, right? I mean, that's... but I think there is fun in trying to design one from your own imagination, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. Now, like I said, I do feel that we are going to get to the point of a super long video, and I know some of you don't mind watching like a 20-minute video, but a lot of people on YouTube, they won't even click. They see 20 minutes and they're like, oh, forget it. They say, forget it, 20 minutes? I ain't got time for that stuff. Look, man, I need to be on the other side of Brooklyn within the next half an hour. I'm going to spend 20 minutes watching this? Anyway. Let me go ahead and shift over to doing the legs and some of the other parts of the character, and then we'll wrap this video up. All right. So, Funny Voice Man is back drawing the legs here, and I always like to get some sort of, I don't want to say knee pad, but some sort of structure right here at the knees of the character that helps define that section. I mean, it's sort of interesting, the whole idea of the Gundam character being humanoid. It's supposed to sort of remind you of the human form, and yet you clearly don't want it to be, it's not like C-3PO or something where it's like super close to the contours of the human body. And so I think it's easy to think, oh yeah, well, you just sort of draw it, looks like a human, but when you get down to actually trying to design your own Gundam character, you will very quickly grow to respect the designers who come up with these things, because it's certainly not random. They have very carefully tried out things that work and don't work. And what I'm doing here is creating a little bit of definition along the front of the shin. Is that what that should be called? And over here, you have to, because it's kind of flipping in a separate direction, you need to turn that in space, in your mind, and figure that you're not going to see it from the same point of view. Over here, you're going to see more of it from the side. And this is, an inexact science. Some people maybe have that natural skill where they can imagine objects in their minds in 3 dimensions and then just sort of draw them. Contrary to popular belief, I don't really have that. I think if you were to take some of these drawings and actually 3-dimensionalize them, if that's a word, they would be lopsided and weird looking, because I'm not an engineer. I'm just sort of guessing in terms of what these things would look like. Adding a little more definition on the foot here, and this is another one where, if you've got this facing away in a 3/4 view, then getting lines on here are going to help to define that, make that seem more 3-dimensional, and just make it seem more locked down on the ground. Very important, I think, with these characters to have that stance, like I was saying, where they look very confident and the feet are placed very firmly on the ground. And that's another thing where maybe knowledge of perspective is going to help you out. And finally, just getting these, I don't know what these things are called. Maybe the Gundam people can tell me if you know. There's these little things that tend to be on the in the ankle area of these characters. and they sort of cover the joint, and I see them on almost all of them, right here in the ankle. You can see it sort of coming over here and going across. I actually built one of these with my son one time when we were in Japan, so I have sort of memories of the various parts and how they fit together. That can be helpful, I bet. You know, if you actually built one, it would actually help you in your drawing of the Gundam characters, because you would actually have handled these pieces and know what they look like from various perspectives. Well, I'm sorry to say that I don't think I can do absolutely every single part of this character in this video. It's just going to become too time-consuming. But hopefully I've given you the sort of basics that you needed to get a good start on drawing a Gundam character of your own. And in terms of like drawing the robot hand of a Gundam character, that could be its own separate video. You know, I'll be here all day if I really try to walk you through each and every line. But I do believe we have covered most of the important stuff, and I'm going to pull back to do the final line work in time-lapse, and we'll wrap this video on up. Alright, well there you have it, my video on how to draw a Gundam character. I hope you found it useful, and you can see that I added up here YT, YouTube, 171, my 171st video, huh? Yeah, see what I did there, huh? Probably time to stop talking when I start talking like that. But I do want to thank everyone who has supported me by getting my books, Miki Falls, Brody's Ghost, these graphic novel series, and now a How to Draw manga book coming out March 8th, Mastering Manga. But enough of that. Thank you so much for watching this video, for supporting me, for subscribing, for spreading the word. I am, as always, deeply appreciative of your support. But let's lay the pencil down. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with another one real soon.